You're crouched at the edge of a still pool somewhere in East Africa. It's hot. You're thirsty. You lean down to drink, and for half a second, before your lips even touch the water, something catches your eye. A face, staring back. Same eyes, same mouth, moving when you move, stopping when you stop. What do you do with that? Do you flinch? Do you reach out and touch the water, half expecting another creature to grab back? Do you scream? Or do you just sit there, frozen, trying to process the single strangest piece of information your brain has ever received? That thing is you. This is the story of the first time a human being ever understood they were looking at themselves. Not a myth, not a metaphor. An actual neurological event that happened inside an actual skull, probably hundreds of thousands of years before anyone wrote a single word down. And here's the part that should bother you a little. We don't know when it happened, we don't know who it happened to, and we genuinely don't know how that person reacted. Because self-recognition isn't something you can dig out of the ground. You can't carbon date a thought. But here's what makes this rabbit hole worth falling into. The ability to look at a reflection and think, that is me. Not that is another animal. Not that is a god. Not that is a threat. Is one of the rarest cognitive feats in the entire animal kingdom.
Most animals fail this test completely. Dogs bark at mirrors for years and never figure it out. Most primates never get there either. The handful of species that do pass are basically a short, strange, exclusive club, and humans are the only members who turn that moment of recognition into civilizations, religions, art, and eventually a billion-dollar industry built entirely around staring at our own faces. So somewhere, at some point, in some patch of prehistoric Africa, a human looked into water, or polished stone, or still air on a freezing morning, and crossed a line that almost nothing else on this planet has ever crossed. They didn't just see something, they recognized someone. And that moment, whatever it looked like, however it felt, might be one of the quietest, strangest, most underrated turning points in the entire story of our species. We're going to dig into what actually happens in the brain during that recognition, what the science says about who else can do it, and why this single moment changed absolutely everything that came after it. The scientific name is mirror self-recognition. The test scientists use is simple. It's called the mark test. Researchers put a small, odorless mark somewhere on an animal's body, somewhere it can't see directly, behind the ear, on the forehead. Then place the animal in front of a mirror. If the animal touches the mark, that's the signal. It means it understands the reflection.
The reflection isn't another creature. It's a live feed of itself. Gordon Gallup ran the first experiment in 1970. He tested chimpanzees. The results split the animal kingdom. Chimpanzees passed. So did orangutans. Bottlenose dolphins passed too. They twisted their bodies in front of the mirror. Asian elephants passed. They used their trunks to investigate paint. Magpies passed as well. A bird with a brain the size of a walnut. They scratched at a colored sticker on feathers. That result broke many assumptions about which animals are capable of this. Many animals fail completely. Dogs fail, cats fail, most monkeys fail, gorillas mostly fail, possibly because eye contact is a threat. Human toddlers fail too, for the first year or two. Most babies don't pass until 18 to 24 months. Before that, babies treat the reflection as another baby, sometimes trying to play, hug, or talk to it. Self-recognition isn't a simple reflex. It requires a mental self-model, an internal map of body and identity, stable enough to recognize a flipped version. Brain imaging shows the right inferior parietal cortex lights up. This area distinguishes self from other. When the first human looked into still water, they didn't flinch or attack. They paused and processed. That is me. Their brain did something rare. Most species can't do this. The question is when ancestors crossed that line, and if reflective water was enough to trigger it. Here's where the story gets murky. Unlike chimpanzees in a lab, we can't run a mark test on someone who lived 200,000 years ago. What we have instead is archaeology. Archaeology tells us something fascinating. Long before anyone made a mirror on purpose, nature was already handing humans raw materials for self-recognition. Still ponds, puddles after rain, dark water collected in a carved-out rock, even the black surface of obsidian, volcanic glass, that forms naturally and, when polished slightly, reflects an image well enough to make out a face. Researchers studying early human sites in Africa and the Near East have found polished obsidian fragments dating back over 8,000 years. Some archaeologists argue the earliest informal use as a reflective surface could go back tens of thousands of years further, since natural obsidian breaks already shiny. The oldest manufactured mirrors we found come from Çatalhöyük in modern-day Turkey, dating to roughly 6000 BCE. Polished obsidian discs deliberately shaped and smoothed to reflect a face clearly. Around the same era, ancient Egyptians were polishing copper and bronze into hand mirrors, often buried with their owners, because a tool that shows your own soul wasn't considered a vanity item. It was considered sacred technology. In Mesoamerica, the Aztecs and earlier cultures used polished obsidian and pyrite mirrors specifically for divination. They believed the reflective surface could show glimpses beyond the physical world, not just your face, but your fate. Notice the pattern here.
Almost every ancient culture that developed a reflective surface immediately wrapped it in ritual, myth, or spiritual weight. The Greeks tied mirrors to the underworld and visions of the soul. Many African and indigenous American traditions treated still water and polished stone as thresholds, places where the self and something beyond the self could briefly meet. That's not a coincidence. If the very first time you saw your own reflected face felt less like information and more like an encounter, it makes sense that early humans wouldn't file it under neat optical trick. They'd file it under, this is important, this matters somehow. Now, the skeptic's argument deserves airtime here, because it's a fair one. Maybe self-recognition wasn't a single dramatic moment at all. Maybe it was gradual, blurry, inconsistent, the same way toddlers today slowly figure it out over months, rather than one lightning bolt instant. Maybe different humans in different places crossed that threshold at wildly different points, with no clean first at all. That's entirely possible, and honestly, probably more accurate than the dramatic campfire moment we imagine. But somewhere in that blur, the line did eventually get crossed for good, permanently, species-wide. And once it did, it never got uncrossed. Here's the uncomfortable part. The same recognition let early humans understand, that is me. It also opened a door that's never really closed since. The door to self-judgment. The moment you can see yourself, you can start comparing yourself to others, to an ideal, to a version of you that exists only in your own head. Anthropologists who study self-awareness point out self-recognition and self-consciousness are two sides of the same coin. You can't have one without eventually getting the other.
And the other one is exhausting. Fast forward through history and watch that single neurological moment metastasize. Polished bronze mirrors in ancient Rome were tied to vanity and status. Owning a good one signaled wealth. By the 1500s, Venetian glassmakers figured out how to back glass with a tin mercury amalgam, creating mirrors clear enough to be almost unsettling. Within decades, European aristocracy was obsessively preoccupied with personal appearance. Historians describe this as a genuine cultural shift. Mirrors got bigger. Rooms got built around them. Versailles has an entire hall dedicated to reflecting yourself back at yourself. Over and over. Infinitely. And now look at where we landed. Billions of people check their reflection in phone screens before they even get the actual camera up. A global beauty industry worth over $500 billion annually, built entirely on exploiting that ancient, hardwired moment of recognition, turning it into dissatisfaction. Psychologists have a term for compulsively monitoring your own reflection. It's called mirror checking behavior. In its extreme forms, it's a diagnostic feature of body dysmorphic disorder. The same cognitive leap that let a prehistoric human understand "that is me" produced a species capable of staring at that same face for hours, hating it, editing it, filtering it, and posting it for strangers to judge. So picture that person again, crouched at the edge of still water. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, seeing their own face for the first time. Not flinching, not attacking, just recognizing.
They had no idea what they were starting. No idea that single flash of self-awareness would lead to obsidian mirrors buried with kings, to Venetian glass empires, to a girl, right now, adjusting the angle of her phone camera for the 11th time. That ancient moment by the water and your last glance in the bathroom mirror this morning are, neurologically speaking, the exact same event. The same brain region, the same simple, strange, very human thought. That's me. Next time you catch your own reflection without meaning to, in a window, a spoon, a dark phone screen, remember, you're not just seeing your face. You're repeating the oldest trick your species ever learned to play on itself.